What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Elias, I'm a photographer located in Athens, Greece. In this video we're going to be comparing two budget 1.2 primes. We basically have the TTArtisan 50mm f1.2 over here and also the Sirui 56mm f1.2. Both of these lenses are considered low budget, especially for what they're bringing onto the table. And I'm doing this video in case someone wanted a 50mm f1.2 prime and had to decide between these two. Alright, let's start off this comparison by talking about the build quality really quick. And let's talk about the TTArtisan firstly. So this TTArtisan lens is really well made, especially for its price point. I'm really impressed about its build quality. It's an all metal construction. We have a beautiful and really soft turning focus ring over here on the middle of the lens. On the top we have a really nice clickable aperture ring, and the sound of this aperture ring is just something that really takes me away. Like, just hear at this thing. Yeah, this clicking sound is so nice. The other really nice thing is that we have a metallic back over here on the lens, and the only thing that I don't like about the build quality of the TTArtisan is basically the lens cap that we get in front of it. This lens comes with two different options in order to protect the front glass element. The first one is this lens cap over here, which is screwable, and you lose so much time by screwing and unscrewing this cap over here. The good thing is that it's made out of metal, so yeah, it's really solid. And in case you want to use a hood on this lens over here, this lens comes with this hood, and you also get a plastic lens cap which fits only on top of the lens hood, which is a really weird design. The plastic lens cap doesn't fit into the front of the glass element over here, which is really weird. Personally, I don't know why they did that, but it's quite alright. Like, for the price of this lens, I think it's made really well. And also, I really love the design. Like, on my Nikon ZFC, this looks beautiful. This is a really nice design of a lens. Like, you can see it over here. It just looks really vintage, which fits perfectly onto my Nikon ZFC. So, about the Sirui 56mm f1.2, this lens is made out of metal as well, but it's a different kind of metal. It feels like it's ceramic, like it has a weird feeling. Like, listen at the difference of this metal and this metal. Like, this is not built as tough as this one is. And it's quite funny because I think that this TTArtisan lens over here is also heavier than this Sirui, even though it is smaller, as you can see. Yeah, this TTArtisan lens, I think, might be heavier, which is not a bad thing, obviously. Like, both of these are really well made. The only thing about this metal construction that it doesn't bother me, but it's something that you obviously feel, is the ceramic feel about it. We don't have an aperture ring on this Sirui lens, which many of you pointed out that is a deal breaker. Personally, I don't really use aperture rings because I really love to control my aperture from my camera. And about the focus ring over here, it is really smooth as well, but again, I feel like the focus ring is even smoother on the TTArtisan. So yeah, I think it's about preference. Personally, I like the focus ring on the TTArtisan a little bit more, just because it's way smoother, but both of them work excellent. And the Sirui lens has also a little bit of a grip on the focus ring over here, which is really nice as well. It has a little bit of texture, so you can grab it easier. Other than that, we also have a metallic back over here on the lens, which also has a USB-C port for future firmware updates. This 56mm comes also with this huge plastic hood over here. It's really easy to use. It also clicks when it's in place. So yeah, that's a really nice lens hood. It's a really big one, so it really helps out with some flaring issues that you might have. So in terms of build quality, both of these lenses are made really well, but I have to give the edge to the TTArtisan lens over here. Since none of these lenses have weather sealing, I think this one is built a little bit better. It also has the really nice aperture ring, and it also feels a little bit sturdier just because of the extra weight and the quality of the metal that it has. You can't go wrong with either of them, but I think this one is a little bit better made. Okay, now that we talked about the build quality of these two lenses, let's address the elephant in the room. And I'm talking simply about the image quality of these two lenses. Which one looks better? Which one produces better images? And the answer in this category will surprise many of you. One of the most important metrics of image quality is the sharpness. So let's jump right into Lightroom and see which one is actually sharper. So I've taken the same image with both of these lenses at many different apertures in order to see the difference of image quality at all these different apertures. So at f1.2, let's zoom in at the middle of the image. And as you can see at f1.2, over here on the left is the TTArtisan lens, and over here on the right is the Sirui lens. And you can see that at f1.2, the TTArtisan lens is much sharper. Personally, as a user of both of these lenses, I knew that the TTArtisan lens was really sharp at f1.2, but the difference is really day and night over here, as you can see. The Sirui 56mm at f1.2 is really soft. Meanwhile, the TTArtisan, even though it costs like 3 times less than the Sirui lens, it performs way better at f1.2, which is really crazy. Over here on the corners, as you can see, the TTArtisan lens has more vignette at f1.2, but if we zoom in at the corners, you can see that the TTArtisan lens is actually softer in the corners, and the Sirui 56mm is much sharper at the corners at f1.2. To be honest, at f1.2, I think that the middle of the image is more important because the rest of the image is going to be out of focus anyways. So yeah, I think that the TTArtisan has the edge at f1.2 at least. So over here at f1.4, let's zoom in again in the middle of the image, and you can see that clearly the TTArtisan is much sharper. If we zoom in the corners though, it's again a different story. The TTArtisan lens is much softer, and the Sirui lens is way sharper in the corners. So right now we are at f2. Both of the lenses are cleared almost from the vignette, which is really nice to see. And let's zoom in again on the middle of the image. And right now at f2, the Sirui made a huge bump in the sharpness, and I think they're actually equal right now. The difference is so small that it doesn't really matter. So I think they're pretty much equal. But at the corners, again, we have the same exact conclusion. The Sirui is much sharper in the corners from the TTArtisan. At f2.8, the Sirui is a little bit sharper actually right now in the middle of the image, which is a really pleasant surprise. And again, at the corners, the Sirui is just a little bit sharper. At f4, if we zoom in at the middle of the image, the Sirui is really sharp right now, and the TTArtisan falls a little bit further behind. And again, if we zoom in on the corners over here, you can see that the Sirui is clearly sharper from the TTArtisan. So yeah, at f5.6, if we zoom in the middle of the image again, you can see that right now both of the lenses are clearly really sharp. I think there is not a difference in the middle of the image. And if we zoom in the corners, what we can see is a little bit more resolution right now on the corners of the TTArtisan. This is really weird. It might be a focusing issue on the TTArtisan over here, but I don't know how this is possible since the middle of the image is really sharp. So yeah, it's really weird that the corners are so soft at f5.6. It might be a user error, so I'm sorry about that, but you can see clearly here that the Sirui lens is softer than the TTArtisan at f5.6 on the corners. So yeah, this is really weird. So right now we are at f8, and if we zoom in again in the middle of the image, you can see that both of the lenses are really sharp. At the corners, we can again see a lot of resolution from the Sirui lens again, and the TTArtisan lens is again really sharp itself on the corners. So at f8, both of the lenses are razor sharp, which is really nice to see. And at f11, if we zoom in again in the middle of the image, you can see that actually we start to see a little bit of diffraction over here on the Sirui. Meanwhile, on the TTArtisan lens, we get a little bit more resolution right now at f11, and over here in the corners, if we zoom in, what we can see is again a little bit of diffraction over here on the Sirui lens. And lastly, let's check out the f16 side of the things, and if we zoom in over here on the middle of the image, you can see that both of the lenses are starting to get hit by diffraction. So yeah, I don't see any difference in terms of sharpness. And if we zoom in over here on the corners, you can see that both of them are equally sharp. So in terms of sharpness, the conclusion is actually really weird. Both of the lenses struggle at some point and are performing better at some other point. But the most important thing is the image quality at f1.2, at f1.4, and at these wider apertures. And at f1.2 and at f1.4 in the middle of the image, the TTArtisan clearly wins in terms of sharpness. The Sirui lens has much better corners, but I think that at f1.2 and at f1.4 it doesn't really matter. But if you stop both lenses down at f2, then the sharpness at the middle of the image is exactly the same, or it's more or less the same. Obviously, the fact that the TTArtisan is sharper at f1.2 from the Sirui means nothing if you can't actually nail the focus at f1.2. And that's why the autofocus on this lens is so useful, because let's say you have a model which is going in and out of the frame, walking towards you, walking away from you, left and right. The autofocus of this lens is accurate enough to make it work at f1.2, which is really nice. So yeah, you have to really think about what type of photography you are doing. If you're doing mostly static shots in terms of portraits or street photography or subject photography, then the TTArtisan in terms of image quality, I think, is the better solution, especially if you like to shoot at f1.2 and at f1.4. But if your type of photography is more run and gun, if you have a faster approach on your photography, then the autofocus of this lens will save you many times, and you will get more keepers that way. In terms of bokeh, both of these lenses have beautiful bokeh. The autofocus backgrounds are really soft, but the 56mm has just a tiny bit more autofocus backgrounds because of that extra reach. This is a 56mm lens and this is a 50mm lens. So the compression on that one is just a tiny bit more. The real world difference is really small though. So yeah, both of these lenses will achieve beautiful autofocus backgrounds in your images. So right now I will play a small montage with a few of the shots that I got with these lenses, so you can get an understanding of what pictures these lenses are capable of capturing, what the focal length is like, what the 1.2 aperture is like. So take something to drink, take something to eat, and enjoy a small slideshow of my photography with these two lenses. And one small disclaimer, all of the images that you will see are edited with my own Lightroom presets. So if you like my editing style, you can grab them down below on the description. They are for sale right now till the end of January. So if you like my editing style and you want to help me out and keep this channel going, then this is one of the best ways to do so. Anyways, enjoy the photography samples. Alright, I hope you really enjoyed the photography samples that you just saw. Let's also briefly talk about the video quality that these lenses can produce. I think that both of these lenses can really shine in terms of video producing. Both of them have a little bit of character in their image, especially with that 1.2 aperture. But in terms of focus breathing, which is really important for many video makers out there, The TTArtisan, as you can see right now on the screen, has a lot of focus breathing. Meanwhile, the Sirui lens controls excellent the focus breathing, at least in my opinion. And if you also think about the autofocus of this lens, then I think that this is clearly the winner in terms of video performance. But if you don't care about the autofocus, and since many videographers use manual focus only lenses, and if you're not doing large focus pulls, then this is clearly the option for you. And this is where I'm going to end the video, you guys. I don't think that there is a clear answer to which one is the better solution. Obviously, there's a huge price difference between these two, but everything comes down to your style of shooting. If you really need the autofocus, then this is the way. If you can live without the autofocus and you actually prefer manual focusing, then this is clearly the better solution. And before I leave you guys, I just want to say a huge thank you to each and every single one of you that choose to spend a little bit of your time by watching my content. This really means the world to me. If you're new here and you like photography, videography, street photography, portrait photography, travel photography, wedding photography, and a little bit of gear talk, then we're doing all of that in this channel over here. So consider subscribing and joining the family. And later on, if you decide that you hate my face, you hate my personality, or all that kind of stuff, then you can always unsubscribe. Anyways, that's all I have for you guys today. See you next time. Take care. Peace.